So please, help me welcome to the stage, Kelly Snow.
Well, good evening. Thank you for letting me have my own Mr. Rogers moment there. Thank you. I've always wanted to do that. So, in April of 2015, I started a journey. Leading up to my 35th birthday, I got this crazy idea that I would run 35 races in my 35th year. I was at a point in my life where I felt like I needed a project, something to focus on, something to help lead to healing and a sense of happiness in my life. I even gave this project a name, 35 for 35, the race to a happier, healthier me. Sounds nice, right? So I had this idea, I gave it a name, and then I did it. Over the next year, until this past April, I participated in 35 races all across the country, mostly 5Ks, some trail races, most road races. Some I ran with people I knew, some I ran all alone. You can see images from all of my races on the screen behind me. But why was I doing this? Why did I need this kind of project? Why did I need to look for healing and happiness? Well, let's back up a bit. Let me take you back to 2008, to a warm, sunny day in the middle of June, a Wednesday actually, where at 12:56 in the afternoon, my oldest daughter, Annie, was born. Everyone was happy. Everyone was feeling the new baby love. Everyone was enjoying this joyous moment. Everyone except me. I should have known from that moment, in that moment of overwhelming emptiness, where people told me I'd be filled with instant joy and love, and instead I felt nothing at all. I should have known in that moment that something was wrong. But I pushed it down, I blamed postpartum hormones, assumed things would get better, and then over the next 6 months, they did not get better. In fact, they continued to get worse. The distance between me and my new daughter, between me and my husband, it grew larger. I became more disconnected from everything. I couldn't find joy in anything. I was numb and I was empty. Thankfully, a close friend of mine finally came to me and said, "I know what's going on. I've seen this before. You have postpartum depression." Thus began the process of figuring out this whole postpartum depression thing. I started seeing a counselor. I went to a few different doctors, from my OBGYN to a general practitioner to a couple different psychiatrists. Come to find out that I seemed to have the makeup to be predisposed to depressive behaviors. All of a sudden, the seasonal depression that I had in college started making sense. The huge letdown that I had after my wedding, the little bits of social anxiety that were creeping in when hanging out with my friends or going to a work event, it all started to make sense. I kept going, we pushed through. I managed to keep my postpartum depression relatively hidden from most people for a long time. I didn't even tell my mom for the longest time. And I eventually found a brighter place. I finally fell in love with my daughter. All of those feelings of love and joy that people said I would have with a child, they definitely came, and I started to feel again. Fast forward over the next 7 years, I continue to have ups and downs in my emotions, periods of light and dark, but somehow made it through the birth of my second child with no depression. The anxiety, though, continued to get worse, especially in social situations. I tried different medications, continued counseling on and off. Finally, my third child was born. No problems initially, had all the appropriate warm and fuzzies right away, filled with love and joy, all the good stuff. But then right at the end of my maternity leave, everything fell apart. My grandmother died, this amazing woman, always a tremendous source of light for me. She was gone. It hit me like a ton of bricks. At the same time, at work, the majority of my team left. I had to rebuild my program, all while still under enormous pressure to do well. Plus, with the emotion of going back to work after what I knew was going to be my last child, it was just all too much. In December of 2014, I had a nervous breakdown. I crashed hard. I went to the darkest place that I've ever been. I wanted to run away. Not suicidal, but definitely wanted to run away, far away from everything. This was a bottom point for me. I was tired of the emotional roller coaster. I was tired of being out of control. I was tired of the inconsistencies in this illness. I was just tired. And so my 35 for 35 project was born. This was something that I could control. This was something for me, something that I needed to do to prove to myself that I still had some power. I also hoped it would be fun, perhaps get me into better physical shape. I hoped this would be the thing that finally put me back together. So I went off making it happen. I started plotting out my race calendar, realizing that to fit 35 races into 1 year's time, that I was going to need to do almost a race a week, at least at first. And there are heavy race times, not sure if you know, but I've discovered that there's lots of races available in the spring and the fall, but winter and summer get a little slim. So, and this was also going to require a budget, as most races aren't free. But I did it. I loaded up the first couple months, April, May, and June, because I knew for myself that I had to get to the 10 races as quickly as possible to really buy into it and stick with it. I made it to 20 races by September. And once I reached 20, I knew I was going to make it. I hit 30 by December, and then I got nervous. What if I got hurt or somehow couldn't finish? But I had to press on. And as if 35 races in general wasn't enough, I decided to make one of them a half marathon. So number 33 was just that. It was probably one of the worst race experiences I've ever had. It was hurricane conditions in Virginia Beach. But I did it. I finished. I walked across that finish line. And then in a flash, I made it to the 35th race. It was such a surreal experience crossing that finish line for the last time. My races took me all over the country, from Washington State to Montana, Colorado to Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and of course, many in Virginia, all around the state. I logged over 250 miles. I gave over $700 to races that were connected to charitable causes. And apparently I burned more than 30,000 calories. But I'm still have a few left, I guess. So many of my friends and family participated too. I even got some people in my life active who hadn't been active in a long time, which was really cool. I even won first place in one of my races, the stroller division. It was awesome. My husband and mom threw me a big party when it was all over. So many wonderful people came to congratulate me. I was showered with hugs and cards, gifts, photo books, memories. It was really beautiful, and the light was shining very bright. But once the party was over and all these amazing people left, it was just me again. And I realized, even after all of this, I still didn't love myself the way that I needed to truly be able to move forward. And I started spiraling again. I started drinking more. I wasn't sure now where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do, who I was supposed to be. Someone very close to me wondered after my project was done, perhaps I was subconsciously actually using the races to keep running away. And as I reflected on that and all the spiraling that was happening, it hit me. I was running away. The road to true healing begins with self-love, and I was still running and not in the right direction. I was running away from myself. So I thought this would fix me. And so when it didn't fix me, I had to shift my mindset. I had to figure something else out. So I started to realize I'm not really ever truly going to be fixed. I'm not really broken. Life is always a work in progress. I will probably take some sort of medication and go to counseling on and off for the rest of my life. And we all have our own stuff. And my stuff is no worse or better than your stuff, which is no worse or better than his stuff or her stuff. The key is to make sure that whatever that stuff is that we just don't let the stuff get in the way of experiencing the joy and seeing the light. Don't get me wrong, I learned a lot along the way in this 35 for 35 journey. For one thing, I discovered I'm not a good blogger. I thought I was going to blog after every single race, and I blogged about 3 races and stopped. So don't ever try to follow me on Blogger. And I also run much better without a stroller, even though I won first place in that division. But I was also reminded of how much I'm loved and supported by others. And since this project, I've learned even more, making it even more meaningful. I've realized that all the medals in the world can't bring me peace or joy, or at least not like I thought. But it wasn't until I got those medals that I was able to realize that this is all part of a journey. And just because the journey doesn't take you to your intended destination doesn't mean that it wasn't worth it. I'm still working on the self-love. That's going to take a while. One thing I'm working on right now, thanks to my leadership guru husband, is this concept of always starting with why. If anybody's a Simon Sinek fan, my husband is. So now when I go to do something, I ask why. Why am I having that drink? Why am I running that race? Why am I deciding to stay in tonight instead of going to hang out with friends? Why? And as long as the answer is heading in the right direction, then it's okay. So I'm glad I did this project. It was sort of my own little eat, pray, love adventure, if you will. And I'll never get rid of these shoes. These are the shoes that took me through every single race. They're a constant reminder of the journey that I took, and only to keep running as long as I'm running to something and not away. The beginning of September, this past September, I ran the Charlottesville Women's 4-miler again. That was number 18 for me last year. And this year's race was very reflective for me. I thought about the last year and the last few months since my project had finished. Not only did I finish the race 4 minutes faster than last year, but it's what those 4 minutes represented that was even more important. The clarity and strength, and maybe even powerful steps to deeper self-love. So this 35 for 35 project didn't get me where I thought it would, but it got me here. And I don't mean here on this stage, but here at this point in my life where I'm not running away anymore. That I always want to make sure that I'm running in the right direction. And that is better than I could have ever imagined. Thank you.